All right, good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. Wall Street Jesus here. Saturday Sweep Series open to everybody. Welcome back. We do it once a month. Uh, the other 3 weeks where it's for members only. And we like to do that so we focus because a lot of us um, in the trading room are discussing a ton of things throughout the week. So we really take the Saturday webinar to focus and review on all the things we saw that prior week. But I love doing the webinar with you guys. We've been doing it for a while. You guys have a lot of great insight. A lot of you guys watch the flow and sentiment just like I do. So welcome back, and I appreciate you guys hopping on a Saturday morning here. I wanted to start off this webinar a little differently, and it's just going to be very briefly, maybe 5-10 minutes, just to go over here. We were talking about this before I started recording here, and a lot of people watch this on recording, even members, obviously, because we get together every week. But since we've done, and I'll show you guys, uh, since we've changed the promotion on the free trial to no credit card down, we've been getting, we get a lot more signups. Okay, because basically it's no obligation. You don't have to worry about getting charged and canceling and all that nonsense, even though that's not going to happen. But we offer a 3-day trial, the premium package. Basically, you're getting everything. You're getting access to this trading room here. Okay. I'm live on audio, video throughout all, market hours, pre-market, post-market, talking about the flow as it comes in live. Okay. So you get access to this room. The only thing you won't be able to do is type and talk because we ran into a little issue with a couple of people. Obviously, it's just a couple of bad apples out of the group, but we figured it's the best way that it's read only, and you're still going to get the same feel. Okay, you're going to get the same feel to everything we're doing in the room on a daily basis. But since we started the no credit card required, we've been getting a lot more signups. But I've been realizing an issue that a lot of people have been bringing to my attention. We get a lot of signups, but I talk to some of the people who, just maybe aren't interested, or I know well and didn't sign up, and they approached me and just made the remark and said that they come in and the 3 days is really not enough. They don't even, they didn't even have any direction in what to look for in that 3-day time span. So I wanted to take a quick 5 minutes, whether you're not part of the trial, whether you're a member. Even if you're a member, this will probably help. Because still, I know members that have been members for a couple of months and still aren't aware of certain features or certain things I post that are pretty important. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick 5 minutes just to touch on that. Okay, and then we'll get into all the good stuff. We'll start off with a quick review of this past week and how it's set up. Then we'll dive into some sentiment. We'll dive into a game plan. And lastly, we'll take questions. You guys throw some names, some interesting names out there, some interesting action out there. But there is a little asterisk disclaimer next to last week's action. We'll talk about that a little bit and what to look for going into next week. All right. So very quickly, again, whether you're a member or you just sign up, this is the main room here. Okay, you can see on the left-hand corner, members only. You come into this room. Basically, this is where everybody, all the members are talking about, strategy, game plan, what they're playing. You'll have Lucci on here slinging all day long. You'll see him fired up when the market's bearish and he can make money on the put side. When the market's bullish, he seems depressed, but he'll be writing puts, collecting premium and that stuff. But it's kind of both ends of the swords because and I'm proud to admit, but I'm a straight up bull. Okay, when my signals are bearish, that just ultimately means I'm not doing a thing. Okay, that means I'm sitting on my hands. But on the flip side, that means Lucci is getting aggressive. Okay, because that's, to be honest, that's what he trades well. That's where he feels more confident. Okay, not to make it sound easy by no means, and you'll see. But, that's what gets him excited. So if you play the downside, you'll be looking at the flow and at what Lucci is talking about on the tape side and what he's trading. Okay. And on the bull side, when Lucci's a little less enthused, you'll be hearing excitement out of my voice, what flow, looks better than the rest, what's more for a swing trade, what's more for a day trade, what I like about the action, what I don't like about the action. Okay, so that all takes place in here. Now, a couple important things you got to know right off the bat. I mean, there was actually a couple signups, not even free trial, but sign up members that weren't aware that I broadcast all day long. So they're in the room as paid members, and they didn't even know there was a broadcast. Okay, so I just wanted to get that out first off because it's the most important aspect of the room, in my opinion. And you'll see when I broadcast, there'll be an icon that comes up that says live. Okay, you can't miss it. It'll be right there. It says live. You click on it, and a screen will open up. I can't get the screen unless I broadcast, but you get the idea. Pretty much that size. You could blow it up if you want to make it bigger. For the most part, I have usually a chart of maybe names we're looking at, ES, SPY, just simple stuff, okay? But a lot of times as flow comes in, we'll look at names together and stuff like that. But more importantly, okay, we don't expect you to come into the room and figure out what this stuff means and you interpret it on your own. I mean, that defeats the whole purpose of you becoming a member, okay? That's my job. My job is to stress and share with you what the flow is telling us, and then for you to come up with a plan that fits your style to trade accordingly, okay? If you do not have a style, you've been trying a couple things, you haven't found success, that's great. That's not a bad thing. That's great. But at the same time, you got to come in with an approach, okay, I'm going to take a step back here. I'm not going to look to get rich in the first couple of days. And I'm going to see how others in the room who have been here and have traded successfully off the flow, what approach they're taking, okay? And maybe you'll start to see things that fit a style that would be suitable for you, okay? Because that's one of the beauties of the room. There's good and bad. I never was a big fan of chat rooms per se, okay? Because what happens is you got a lot of noise, right? You got a lot of people throwing things out. Some people are bearish and they're trying to, they're negging you out in a sense and creating a bias. But that's, if you're taking that approach into this room, you're doing it the wrong way, okay? If you're looking for a style, you're looking to see how traders trade off the flow. A lot of these traders have been here a long time. There's a reason they've been here a long time. If they weren't successful, they wouldn't still be in the room, okay? So you get ideas. You get ideas. If you're looking to become a day trader, you focus on people who are day trading. You're looking to become a swing trader, focus on the people that are swing trading, okay? You can also mute a couple people out if they get on your nerves. That would be in preferences over here, all right? But that's all stuff you don't really need to know off the bat. Here's another important thing. Because I'm posting comments, not only on audio, video, okay, but I'm manually posting flow I see with the naked eye and comments. That's pretty important, okay? Stuff, alerts that aren't going to hit the board per se. So I'll give you an example. I start see sweepers nibbling on some Microsoft calls, okay? It's nothing noteworthy yet, okay, that's going to come up in scans or set off any alerts. But I see a sweeper keep coming back and, taking shots on some upside calls, and I'm going to bring that to your attention. Why? Not because it's an actionable play already, but it allows you to get set up. Look at the stock, right? Do you like the setup there? Pull up the option chain, see what's going on, see the bid and the offer, where you would look to get filled and stuff like that. So I kind of give you a heads up on some of the noteworthy action that may take place. Okay, because what we see a lot more than ever, every single large bet that you hear about or read about on social media that people post, all that stuff, there are small sweepers that are front running that action. Okay, meaning we'll see a sweeper come in and sweep 200 lots, small little 200 lots. And then 10 minutes later, 5, 10, 15 minutes later, boom, a big order comes in for $1 million. Okay, so those little guys, again, this is not retail action. I'm not looking at retail action. Sweepers aren't retail money. So those little guys are giving us a heads up on where the momentum might be coming. Okay, so that's the importance of it. Now, before I rambled on about that, I was stressing how, I had just a bad taste in my mouth in chat rooms because there's a lot of noise here, and sometimes you can lose focus on some of the important stuff. That's why this filter tab right here was really important. And, one of the first things I stressed to the Lucci gang when we did this. So you just click the filter button, and this is just my commentary. Okay, the alerts, some of the stuff I post, sentiment charts and stuff like that, you will see that all here and just me and nothing else. All right, so if this is too noisy, you can focus on that. Okay, flow slow, you want to see what other people are doing, you want to get some ideas, you can go there. All right, this is the tote board. This is probably the most popular thing in the room, but for me, I'm being honest with you guys, it may be pretty, but it's not as important as some of the other stuff. Okay, I think paying attention to the commentary, audio, video, and what I'm talking about flow and sentiment wise, and if you're playing the downside or playing some options that Lucci is playing, focusing on that, I think that's more important than looking at the board and what looks big, what looks sexy or not. All right, this is just basically, I'll tell you how I use this board, okay, because I'm looking at the flow in real time. There's no scan set. I'm looking at the whole entire flow. Okay, that would be a little too overwhelming for a lot of you. Okay, but that's my job. My job is to pick out some of the stuff that I feel is important in that flow. All right, but the way I use the board a lot of times for sentiment purposes. Okay, so I'll look and I'll see, wow, the market's really not doing too much, but we got some bullish sentiment here. There's no bearish sentiment coming into this market on the professional money end. All right, so I look at the board more for sentiment purposes and review than anything else. Okay, and that's another popular feature. You can go in here and, you see me do this many times, type in PayPal, and you get a review of all the PayPal bets. Okay, but this is only the action that's hit the board, not some of the smaller stuff that I post manually. We're trying to work on that. All right, but you could go back, and I feel this is important because you can get an idea of what price the action came in at, more importantly than anything else. So if you see, all right, this action came in at $70, $71, and now the stock is 81, basically, the move is there, and you're not playing initial activity here. Okay, so I think that's why the reference point is important here. And these are just basics. Size, lightning bolts or sweepers, blocks or blocks. There's nothing much more than that you need to know, especially early on in your membership or free trial. Okay, so that's basically the basics. And here's the market update section. You can see where you come in on the left side, members only, market updates. I post pre and post market recap and sentiment stuff. All that goes in here, okay? So it doesn't get lost anywhere else. So the market update section is all my pre-market, post-market stuff that I look at. Generally, anything I look at flow, sentiment-wise, I'll throw in there that I think you guys will find interesting. All right, so that's important as well, because let's say, for example, and here's one of the issues, the responses I got from some of the early members. What about if I'm not in front of the computer all day? What about if I'm not in front of the computer and that particular day I'm not listening to the broadcast, okay, or haven't been watching the flow in real time as you were posting, what I would suggest you do, two things, okay? One, the market update section, I will post every day at the close, the size orders that day, okay? The top bets that day, in my opinion, and all the sentiment stuff every single day at the close. And almost every day, a little quick write-up recap on what we saw and what to expect. Okay, that's every day at the close. So for some particular reason, you know, you had work or you had something to do and you weren't around that day, you go right into the market update section and you'll get a quick review of all the major things that happened that day. Okay, if you're a member of private Twitter, and by the way, the premium package when you sign up comes with private Twitter included. It's not an additional fee. So you get access to that as well. You can go back and review. All right. If you're a member of just private Twitter, this I do every day at the close there as well. Okay. And one of the main reasons I started doing that, a lot of people who are members to the room, they found, or I guess they felt it was easier to access it via private Twitter. We're working on an app that's coming. Okay. So that problem is going to get solved. But they felt it was easier via mobile to access the information with Twitter. Okay. So post market every day. You private Twitter members know I post all the same stuff here on private Twitter for the most part, the important stuff. Okay. So if you're on private Twitter or in the room and you haven't been able to see the flow as it's coming in, every day, literally at 4 o'clock, I start posting recap stuff and you'll be abreast of all the important stuff that happened that day. One, where we are as far as sentiment is concerned. That's extremely important. As you guys know, I stress continuously. All the top action that came in. I'll post some under the radar flow in names that had bullish flow that maybe we didn't pick up on. All that stuff you will see. Okay. And like I said, a post-market recap, quick one, just to give you an idea of where we're at. All right. So that's it basically. Okay. But believe it or not, again, members who have been there for months, and a lot of these free trial members, signups had no idea about the broadcast, the filter tab, the market update section, and, you know, private Twitter. Again, I think it's most important. If you're not in front of your Twitter all day long, you got to pay attention to that recap stuff, because, you know, that pretty much gives you a synopsis on what occurred that day. All right. Anybody have any questions? Especially if you just signed up. I know a couple of you guys mentioned you did. Anybody have any questions? Now is the time to ask them if you do. On any of the stuff I just mentioned. The app, Sean saying what would be included in the app? The app, from what we're trying to do, we're trying to get the audio video to work well on an app. That's what we're trying to do. That's what's been holding it up in a sense. Okay. So basically we have an app. You could get some of the general stuff in here, but we're working on getting the audio video, filter tabs, all that stuff. Okay. So I don't know how close we are. We ran into a little wall with the audio video. It was working. It wasn't working. Basically, well, we're going to get there sooner than later. Robert saying, Jay, suggestion for private Twitter. The end of the day recaps of the flow are gold. Could you post some of those intraday? It's tough to get an idea. Yeah, Robert, the problem is intraday is the time. Like if you noticed on private Twitter, if I run into a dead spot, okay, I'll post some of the unusual activity, right? Unusual volume. I'll post some sentiment charts, even if they're not really showing much. But if the action's really hot in here and I'm on audio video and watching the flow, trading, it's not, it's not as easy. So I know, especially because members of the actual trading room have been asking me for that as well. I'm going to try to put throw an intraday thing as well, Okay. But like I said, if you're in front of the screens all day, you have no problems. But like Robert's saying, if you're not, that's what I'm working on, trying to get a little more efficient. So, you could just come in, turn on Twitter, or come in the room and boom, you'll have a basic idea of what we've been looking at and what you missed. All right. Aaron saying, I'm focused on the bigger picture. How can you use this service for leap plays? Aaron, that's the one beauty of all this, okay? And I'd be the first, people would vouch for me that have been members. I'd be the first to admit to you that if there's only one particular way to trade off this intel, then I would be just dead straight with you. Okay, if you needed to trade just options, I would say, guys, you gotta be option traders, otherwise you're not gonna find any value here. The beauty of flow in general, okay, and one of the reasons I was drawn to it is that you can use it for any trading style or any purpose. Okay, it's used differently, but it can be used in any format. Okay, if you trade just ES and the futures, right? You can use it. Sentiment and flow is a deadly indicator for trading ES. Deadly. Okay. So you don't need to trade these individual names here. All right. And I'll give you a quick example. We talk about it a lot. Okay. Let's say the sentiment readings we're looking at are screaming bullish signals that people are a little too bearish and leaning on the put side. Okay. So now we got a bullish sentiment reading on this, on the short-term sentiment stuff we look at. All of a sudden, we start to see sweepers get aggressive on the call side in individual names. That's fine. That's telling us that's that divergence we're looking for, right? The professional money taking the other side of the trade as opposed to the retail money. That is a fantastic setup for trading ES, SPX, SPY, you name it. Okay, so a lot of people think just because a lot of this stuff is individual names that you have to trade individual names. That's not the case. Okay, as far as time frames are concerned, like Aaron's talking about, I day trade the equity and swing trade options primarily. Sometimes I'll take common for a swing here and there. Okay, so that goes to show you right there that the furthest thing from the truth that I got to trade a specific way off this stuff. If you're a day trader, you're using this information as a momentum indicator, right? Because you don't care what's going to happen 3 months from now. You're looking for just the juice off the action that's coming in, and you're looking to get a trade out of it intraday, okay? If you're a swing trader, position trader, you're looking for a different type of flow. Okay, so like Aaron's talking about, he likes to, what I take, Aaron, from what your question's asking me, you're a position builder, right? You like to look at leaps, you like to find something, build a position in, give it a long leash, give it time, you don't mind giving it time. There's a lot of stuff like that that some of the more tactical traders like myself can't take advantage of. We see leap activity and a good amount of it. We talk about it on this webinar constantly, Aaron. Constantly. Okay, I'll give you an example. A couple quick ones. This SGMS. Okay, I'm kicking myself. I don't have anything further out. I had leaps a while ago. I actually sold them like an idiot. But this SGMS was a perfect long-term play. Perfect. Okay, and not only that, there was leap activity in it. That's why I'm saying that. They were buying really aggressively Jan leaps in the name. Okay, so there is a ton of action, and I'm not even exaggerating. There's a ton, more than enough, because you're really trying to be selective if you're taking that approach. There's more than enough flow to meet that trading style. We just had a name recently, KKR. If you guys remember down here, they loaded up on leaps right into the lows. Okay, so a lot of us tactical traders, Aaron, we were like, all right, what do we do here? You know, primarily they're buying leaps. That's the best action. You know, do we look for some shorter term flow, maybe for some momentum? But for your style, this would have been a perfect candidate. Perfect. And we got even the in between, you know, not only leaps, we got in between stuff that go out to, we're seeing August, September action, November, December action. All right. So, like I said, guys, you name a trading style and the flow has value. Okay. Because in my opinion, I mean, if you think of it logically, like I remember when I got into the game, one of the things I was fascinated by was insider buying. Okay. Or these 13F filings like we just saw, right? What's David Tepper buying? You know, all that stuff. But if you think about it, none of that stuff is real time. None of it. That's old news. Like everybody's making a big deal over Tepper adding to the Micron position, right? We knew about that while he was doing it. No? We saw the missiles come in right in front of our eyes. We saw him and that group doing it right in front of our face. So that's the beauty of the flow. We're seeing in real time the big shots, the professional money out there position in real time. Okay? I would say the difficult part is cutting through the fat and pulling out that information. Because there's so many, I mean, there's call buyers and put buyers all day long. All right, all day long. 90% of that, I would say 95% of that stuff is useless. That goes on all day long. Okay, but we're looking and we're trying to focus on just the aggressive activity. Okay, and for like your style, Aaron, you know, you've heard me, if not, a lot of people have, throw the word Sharpie around. You know, that's the kind of stuff you would look to position in. Sharp money, meaning David Tepper type players positioning in a name. Another name is, you know, that PayPal. You guys know, we've been talking about it, right? The PayPal. That's not, you know, that's not speculative money. That's not somebody coming in betting, you know, some rumor is going to come out next week. That's somebody piling up stacks of September and October calls into the lows. While the stock was looking like a complete breakdown and nobody wanted to touch it, right into the teeth of negative Amazon news that Amazon was ready to step on their toes. Remember that? Right here. Right was ready to roll over. That's exactly when the sharp money started to build a position in September and October calls. Okay, so I'm waiting. Like they made an acquisition that was a big deal from what I read, right? And they had to do it to compete with Square, etc. But what I'm waiting for is who was this? Because we're going to hear. Sooner than later, we're going to find out who this was. Who was this? Pumping in $7 million, $500,000 sweeps one after the other. Who was this? Look at this. And we're going to find out that information. The stock will probably pop on that particular day, but it's going to be old news. We already saw some Sharpie. We just don't know who. But we know sharp money has been buying PayPal. Another great example of that was EA. You guys remember that? Okay. EA into the teeth of this sell-off. I remember like it was yesterday. They had negative Star Wars nonsense. You guys remember that? Oh no, the Star Wars guy, they're going to lose everybody, blah, 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 blah. Scary news. The stock started rolling over. Tons of selling in the name. What do we start seeing? PayPal type action coming in to June strikes back here. Okay? And the stock continued to sell for a good couple of days after that buying, and he just continued to come back and buy more and more and more. Okay, stock ultimately bottomed, started rallying. The Star Wars news all of a sudden people were not even talking about anymore. And then on, I don't know which gap up it was, but gapped up on news that, what the hell's his name? Melvin. Okay, Melvin took a size position in the name. So that's what this flow is all about. Now, again, I went on this kind of rant here because of Aaron's question. And there's, if you're a short-term trader like myself and a lot of people in the room, that's where there's, too much action for you to look to take advantage of. Action all day long, okay? Because you could have traded the PayPal off that action, right? But, a lot of us, like myself, we sold the damn thing. We sold the damn thing. So, but that's a great question, Aaron, okay? And listen, if you are a member, especially if you are a member, you can't figure out what to look for, what to pay attention to for your style, ask me. Ask me. Don't be ashamed to ask. Ask. And I will tell you exactly what you need to pay attention to for your particular style. That's easy. Will you do it? Is a whole other question. Will you take the proper risk management behind it? That's a whole other question. That's on you. I can't do anything about that. But what you need to pay attention to, that's the easy part. That's the easy part. All right. Anybody else? Some good questions. Anybody else? Any questions on what I mentioned before we get into? We'll get into the names, guys. You guys love the names. We'll get into the names. I promise. The names are the least important aspect of all this. We'll get into all the names. Okay. And like I said, there's a little, the action last week has to be taken with a grain of salt. I will stress that to you. And here's something I realized too. You have people on social media. There's flow experts all over the place. Okay. And they're going to want to believe whatever their bias is. Okay. So in other words, even though calls are rolled, they're not going to pay attention to that part. They're going to act like it's fresh, big size buying coming in because they're bullish on the name. And that's fine. But there's no value out of flow from what they're doing. Okay, so that's what you would look to become a member and gain off this. Okay, me doing all the legwork and telling you what's clean and what's not clean, and you deciding whether it's worth it, for you to fire at. Faye's talking about ILG. That was another, fantastic example. Fantastic in an unknown name. Okay, loading up on calls. I never heard of the name. Timeshares, I couldn't fathom why they were buying it, and crazy buying in this thing. So there are a ton of examples. All right, so that's basically, I wanted to start off with that so you got an idea, right? Everybody, I don't see any other questions besides some individual names you guys are throwing at me. If you sign up for the 3-day trial or you're a member, you have pretty much an idea of what you need to do. It's pretty easy, right? All right, good. All right, so let's, oh wait, Paul's got a question. I have difficulty with flow looking at charts. I think that sometimes calls were actually more sold than optimistic. What charts are you talking about, Paul? And I don't understand the question. Again, if you're a member, okay, if you're a member, there's a reason why you're a member here. You have to block out what everybody else is telling you the flow may be, okay? Because a lot of times they'll tell you it's bought when I'm telling you it's not. And a lot of times I'll be telling you it looks bought to me and they're telling you it's not, okay? If you got to have some confidence in me if you sign up for this service. You have to. If you're going to start worrying about, well, Jesus, why aren't you talking about this name and they're all talking about that name? One, you know nothing about me, because if they're all talking about it, I want nothing to do with it. And two, you might as well just stay on Twitter, get the flow from there. Okay, but what I'm telling you is 50% of the flow that they're talking about is useless. It's useless. Robert, they've been struggling lately to pull the trigger without a strong sentiment read. Great question, Robert. Great question. I want to save these questions for the end, but that's a great question. That was an issue for me as well when I started really getting into sentiment. Great question. Well, let me hit on that a little bit later. Remind me there. Great question. Okay. All right. Let's go now and look at what we've been seeing here. Again, try not to make any predictions or forecasts. We just basically want to take the information that we got this week as far as flow and sentiment is concerned, okay, and put that together and try to devise some sort of game plan on what to look for this upcoming week, okay? So we didn't, most of you who aren't members weren't on the webinar last Saturday, okay? But last Saturday's webinar, we were talking how coming into this week, it was a tough one. It was a tough setup. Why? One, we're coming off a strong rally, okay? A great rally. A lot of individual names exploded, a lot of winners, strong market rally, the works, okay? We had a nice sentiment signal down here, pretty much right at the lows again, okay? Again, sets off a nice squeeze. But the problem was this squeeze, one, not only sapped all the sentiment support we had, but short-term sentiment amongst retail traders went from pessimistic, thinking the market was going to roll over, go to new lows, to now overly optimistic. And that's what happens that quick, okay? The same traders who wanted to short down here and got run over want to get long up here. That's how the game works. That's why sentiment works, okay? So the last week we were talking about how we need to see some sort of pullback or digestion for it to set up anything of quality to long side, okay, as far as the overall market's concerned, all right? But at the same time, any weakness we see, we can look at flow within individual names and maybe look at some individual name outperformance, okay? Maybe some rotation of money or funds into a name that hasn't moved yet and stuff like that, all right? So we really didn't have much of a pullback, all right? This pullback and breather did its job. It got bullish sentiment from overly optimistic to basically neutral. That's good, okay? But we didn't have much of a pullback. We just had sideways, one little pullback here and sideways. All right, but underneath the hood, there were some individual names, especially off action, that did well. All right, you had Yelp was a nice winner. Some of the short squeeze names were nice winners. Okay, so, you know, not as much as obviously this rally here, but individual names did outperform in a sense. Okay, so that was the setup coming into this week. On top of that, we had May monthly expiration, a big expiration coming off a strong rally. That's a disaster setup, okay, a disaster setup. Why? All the buying, okay, all the smart money buying that was done into weakness recently, a lot of it was in May calls, okay? So those May calls are set to expire, right? They expired Friday. Those guys have to take those positions, and if they're still bullish or still want exposure, they have to replace that, okay? And that's what we really started to see the second half of last week. All that size call buying that you saw people posting on Twitter, getting excited about, that wasn't new buying. That's not fresh, aggressive money coming into a particular name that's already rallied. What that was is a position adjustment from May to whatever month they went out and adjusted the position. I'll give you an example. Energy names, forget it. All over the place in energy names. Encana, okay? into the lows, they piled up May calls. Okay, the top 3 open interest positions, the top 3 positions in OI were May calls in this ECA, energy name. Okay, they caught this move here. So now, you saw it. A lot of people talking about, oh my God, do you see the size buying in Encana? But what they failed to realize, there's 3 top OI positions in May calls that are set to expire. All they're doing is moving those calls out to June. Okay? That type of buying, guys, rarely, once in a while it does, but that type of buying like we saw in Encana, that type of call flow, rarely happens after a move like this. Rarely. Once in a blue moon. Okay, once in a blue moon. And so you could see how, if you just have some scan set, okay, and you're not familiar with flow or whatever the case may be, how misleading that could be. Okay, yeah, it's still bullish, right? That player, that group didn't sell those calls, right? They didn't just leave them to expire. So they're prolonging that bullish trade, but it's not a new bet. And that's a big difference. All right, so with that being said, all the flow, okay, all the flow that we saw last week, with the exception of some under the radar names that have no open interest, okay, they have no May calls outstanding, they have nothing. With the exception of names like that, all that size flow that you got excited about has to be taken with a grain of salt, because it's not clean, aggressive buying. You may not want to believe it. You may love the name that it came into, and that's fine. You can still buy the name if you think it's set up nice and you want to get long. But you're not trading just off flow, because you're lying to yourself. All right. So that's the situation we were coming into, on top of having sentiment against us this week. That was a major hurdle. The good news, done. Case closed. Okay. So now my point is, or any buying that we saw last week that wasn't clean, that got you excited, if they're start buying next week, or in the week after that, or days after that, whatever the case may be, okay, then you got confirmation that this is real buying, right? Any new buying that comes into any new names we see, we don't have to worry about that now. Okay, so it's a big deal. I'm excited that we got that out of the way going into next week, with a lot better setup than where we were last week, going into last week. All right. On the sentiment front, I mean, basically, rather than going one by one, I just did this, which will give you an idea of where we're at. All right, here's some of the major ones. Here's if you're a short-term trader, as I like to use the word tactical trader, okay, this is the stuff you need to pay attention to right here. Okay, this is the most important. And you got the squeezometer, which is an intraday indicator. Okay, that closed at a little under neutral. That was hot at the beginning of the week, meaning too bullish. Okay, trader sentiment, that's an end of the day reading, doesn't update throughout the day, just at the end of the day. That was hot. Again, caution territory, too bullish. That's basically neutral, a little under neutral. Equity put to call, believe it or not, I was actually surprised. I knew it would be hot, but I didn't think the equity put to call actually was one of the hottest things out there. Look at this. And that doesn't really get too hot. Look at this. Okay? So, again, that doesn't mean Armageddon's coming. It just means that players, the crowd is too long. Okay? Just as we use it on the opposite side. When the crowd is too bearish, betting on further downside. The probability of that happening is slim. Okay, so it's the same thing. And another one, this is anti-VIX, a measure of VIX buying. I call it the anti-VIX. An intraday reading, that was neutral as well. Okay, but you see how they all line up. Pretty much neutral, a little under neutral. A lot better than hot. Like I said, these were all hot going into the week. Some of the intermediate term, longer term stuff, okay, that we look at. Daily sentiment index. Remember, right? The recent buy signals we had, remember? Back to neutral. The NDSI, remember how bullish that looked? Back to neutral. The intermediate one, even a little bit hotter than that. AIM is still bullish. That's more of a survey type thing. Smart money neutral. Retail put buying weekly. That updates weekly. That didn't update yet. All right. That NDSI, you guys know it. This one here, the intermediate one, all-time low reading down there. Look at that move. Okay, so we lost all that juice there on the intermediate. All right, so that's where we're at. We'll see where this retail put buying, not last week, the week before that, had a buy signal, came off last week. Obviously, we'll see where that is. I don't expect anything major there. Probably with everything else, we'll line up neutral. All right. Let me touch on Robert's question. That was a good one. What happens is, and a lot of you guys, the more you see this, will realize, what happens is sentiment works so well in CHOP, in this type of climate. Okay, it almost works too well, because what happens is you don't want to do anything until you get green signals on the sentiment side. That was a huge hurdle for me, Robert. The same exact thing would happen. I had like several great trades. When was it? What year was it? It's a while ago. But anyway, there was legitimately a lengthy chop we were going through market-wise, okay? And sentiment's just on the money in that type of climate. And even as the market started to pull out of it, I was gun-ho on waiting for a bullish setup on the sentiment side. You know, I was reluctant to touch anything until I get a green signal on the sentiment side. But what happened was it was stuck in neutral, and the market continued higher. The flow looked good. Names were pushing higher. And I was like, oh my God, I don't believe what I just did here. You know what I mean? I don't believe what I just did here. I fell in love with bullish sentiment signals, and I was stuck on that, and I missed the rally, and I missed flow, and I missed everything. Okay. So what I stress to you is this. Sentiment trumps all when you're in this type of market, like we were talking several weeks ago, okay? But if you start seeing bullish flow, legitimate flow, okay, you start seeing legitimate buying, and sentiment is neutral, that's still a buy signal. Okay, if you were to tell me, all right, I don't see any action in anything I like, so I'm going to stick to waiting for a green sentiment signal, that's a different story. That's okay. But if you start to see flow in names, and the flow's legit, you know, and you know what I'm talking about, you see flow like PayPal come in, and you got neutral sentiment, and you like PayPal, you got to fire. You got to fire, because you've seen those charts. I don't have them here now, but Robert, we can look at them at another time. You know, markets, when you're in a bull market, you don't get bullish sentiment signals as much as we've been getting here. You don't get them, because you don't get those. You don't get that fear. Now, don't get me wrong. When things get too hot, you want to be careful. You want to take chips off the table, raise stops, limit your positions. Okay, that always applies. But when you're in neutral, That it's neutral for a reason. There's no signal there. There's nothing there. And that's why I say when we're in neutral, flow trumps sentiment. You understand? When sentiment's neutral, flow always trumps sentiment. Because a market could be going sideways, you have neutral sentiment, and sweepers could be firing bullets all over the yard, and that's extremely bullish. All right, so pay attention to the action, and if you see legitimate action in a name you like, and sentiment's neutral, it's totally fine. Totally fine. Now, if you're telling me about the overall market and not individual names, that's where it becomes a little trickier. That's where it becomes a little trickier. All right, but you will get the squeezometer, you'll get a green signal because of how, it's really extreme short term. The squeezometer, you're going to get a green signal here and there. No doubt about it. I don't think, Robert, too, in this type of market, I don't think we're going to go too long without bullish sentiment signals. This is a different market right now, So if you're looking to be extremely selective, then that's a choice you make. But understand, you're going to miss winners and some big winners if the flow is there and we're in neutral sentiment. You're going to miss winners. But that's how I look at it. Neutral sentiment, flow trumps all. Okay. So for me, for example, going into next week, if I see them come in and annihilate something, I'm buying it. I'm definitely buying it. The only time I wouldn't buy it is if we were red hot on the sentiment front, and I would just be looking for possibly a better entry. Waiting for it to cool off and looking for a better entry. And you got to understand too, you get different trading environments. We spoke about this in the past too. When you have a panic like we did in February and everything's correlated to each other, that's a different market environment. PayPal's not going to go higher in an environment like that, no matter what flow it catches, if the market's in the tailspin and taking everything down with it. May outperform, go down less, but it's not going up. So, you're looking to adapt to the environment as it goes on as well. What do we got here? Yeah, but you don't want to focus too much on neutral sentiment. It's neutral, meaning there's no signal there. What'd you say? Okay, so that was the question there. Faye saying there's so many calls on May and June, but no one sells calls May 18th expiration last week. Why? May 18th expiration, that's May monthly expiration. May monthly is May 18th. And yeah, DK is making another point here. We're going into a period of the summer here, okay, where the market can go dead. So that's one of the other reasons flow becomes more important in a sense. If this market's just dead, you're going to need individual name outperformance. You're going to need it. You're going to need to catch something like a PayPal if the market's not going to do much. So keep your eye on the flow. I always say that when the flow is clean, when the flow is there, and you're getting excited about the action in names, okay, all you need to look at sentiment-wise is to make sure we're not too hot if you're a short-term trader, okay, because that you'll cool off, you got a better entry there. But other than that, I wouldn't get too caught up with it if the flow is there. Can you talk about position size related to sentiment and flow? That neutral type environment stays smaller, nimble, less, everything is line. You could do that as well, Robert. That's just a preference thing, but you could do that as well. Your sweet spot, and that's how I refer to bullish sentiment when flow starts to turn, as a sweet spot. That's your best risk reward there, so you can look to size differently, without a doubt. It's all a preference thing. These are things, I hate to say it, I'm not brushing off the credit, but these are things you need to figure out on your end you know, depending on how you trade. But yeah, that's an option. You know, stay smaller, neutral sentiment. And then when you get the signal you're looking for, you know, that's going to be your bread and butter. You're going to find something you become comfortable with. And don't be afraid of playing around. Stay small in general, play around until you feel comfortable. You know, like right now, you see what I'm doing? I feel most comfortable. I day trade, and I know I'm not making a score unless I get extremely lucky on an intraday trade, right? I'm looking to grind it out, make a little money, entertain myself more than anything, and selectively, extremely selective, I'm swinging some stuff in a swing account. Okay, but I'm being extremely selective. Now, I missed a good amount of winners off this last rally, but that's all right. That's the strategy I want. You know what I mean? That's the strategy I want. So if I see, again, like a PayPal was one of my swings recently. Okay, if I see PayPal action come into bullish sentiment, that's something I want to swing. You know, if not, all the other stuff I'm day trading, and that's kind of softening the blow of that FOMO. You know, I'm participating that way. I'm not going to get rich. I'm not going to get poor. And I'm keeping myself occupied. So without a doubt, fool around with that stuff, nice and easy. You know what I'm talking about. And eventually you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out, and you'll devise a game plan that you feel most comfortable with. And you got to have confidence and feel comfortable to get aggressive size-wise. You can't just get aggressive. Just, you know what I mean? You can't just put on size whenever just you walk in one day, oh, I'm going to size up in this one. It can't happen that way. So you'll get there. All right. So before we get into names, and we'll go right into names, that's the setup we got this week, okay, based on what we were seeing. So in my opinion, there was some bullish activity this week, but again, there's a big but. It wasn't clean, okay? And I think coming days will be a big tell of what this flow looks like. Okay, if we see that same type of buying that we saw last week coming clean, ultimately that's going to be a great sign. Okay, whether the market goes up, down, sideways, crooked, I don't care. They could be rotating in specific names, and this may end up being a stock picker's market. I'm fine with that. Okay, but the flow is going to be extremely important in coming days here this week. Because if we see the buying just dry up, we know last week's buying was bullshit, excuse my French. All right, and it becomes worrisome when I don't see these guys getting aggressive on the buy side. Because it's only a matter of time before the bears sniff that out, and then you see put sweepers grab the ball and whoosh. Again, I'm not in the forecasting business. I have no idea what this market's going to do. I'm not even pretending to know what this market's going to do. Nobody has an effing clue what this market's going to do. Okay? I'm going to let the professional money take the ball, the big money out there, the guys who move markets, let them take the ball, and I'm going to use those signals to make my decisions over. Okay, but the flow is extremely important. Don't ignore it this week. Okay, there are times to ignore it. Just on another note, okay, you guys remember around earnings, we talk about this all the time. You know my feelings about earnings flow, right? It's a waste of time. Okay, that's why, again, not to go on a PayPal, but just because that was the biggest action of the bunch recently, if that PayPal action came into earnings, I would have never owned it. I'm being honest. I wouldn't have even played it. But because it came in after earnings, that's what made it even more bullish. All right. There was another one, and we might as well get into names while we're at it here. Yelp. Okay. Post earnings, boop, dump. Okay, another dump on Amazon news. Again, like the PayPal. Somebody comes in, opens up a size bull combo, risk reversal, right into the teeth of the selling, and voila. Okay, and honestly, this may not have even panned out like this that quick. I didn't think it was going to happen this quick. I thought it would grind around, find some support, maybe give them a chance to come back again, hit it. But the significance was it came after earnings, not into earnings up here. Useless. All right, so we'll talk about some of the names here because I know you guys are ready. I've rattled them. You've probably seen them been talked about all over Twitter, blah, blah, blah. Let's, oh, here they are. All right, so here was some of the notable action that caught my eye on Friday. Okay, PayPal. Probably one of the only clean bets where I can be certain it was clean in a sense, because we saw this action in the past, right? It's the same dude. It's the same dude or dudette or whatever it is. Comes in September, 77 and a halves, in the money, sweep, opens, 760,000, blah, 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 adding to the pile. Okay. It's not initial activity though, and it's a chase, obviously. Okay. Spot. This was a real interesting bet. June 155 call sweeper into selling on Friday. Now, there was some May positions. There was May calls in open interest that expired. Okay. So the likelihood is it replaces those. So the right thing to probably do is see if they hit spot again. And that would legitimize this action. Okay. If you like the name, it was down what, 7, 6, 7 on Friday. You know, if you like the name, you can use this action as an indicator. But again, you're not trading off just the flow. You're looking at something on your end you have confidence in. Okay. And you could use this bet as they're still bullish, because they are. And that weakness is a buying opportunity. All right. But again, good looking order. If this came Monday, I'd swing it, me personally, and I'm very selective. SRPT, you guys know the story here. This thing, I don't think they've lost, as far as a trade, I don't think there's been a loser on the sweeper side in SRPT. I can't remember when. I really can't. This stock has been absolutely ridiculous. A couple guys in the room played it and sold it already. This came into weakness on Friday. They've been buying every single dip in this name for as long as this rally has emerged. Been incredible. Every order, too, is good looking. Every order is good looking. So, same thing. Likely will replace May position, blah, blah, blah. But another sweep, decent sweep, came into red. So the same thing would apply there, like the spot. If you like the name, you were looking for a red to green trade, you can use the sweep as confirmation. But it had a real nice move, you can see here. So that's the SRPT. Sweep of 420 plus, June 22nd, 95s. About 300 grand there. This is the Amazon bet everybody's talking about. Okay, it's massive. It's huge. Huge, right? A little bit out of the money, but look at the premium there. Okay, actually, you could see 82 and then paid up here 85. $3 higher. More than 3. Okay, gigantic. The one issue again, well, I got 2 issues with it that, because you guys know, remember the bazooka that came into Amazon? I was doing cartwheels over that back in the day. 2 issues that I have with this. One, the spot. Okay. Even though you got some consolidation, bazookas don't usually, initial bazookas don't start up here. Now, maybe he's playing for something that we don't know. It's possible. All right. But the last time orders like that came in, nobody wanted to own Amazon. Like PayPal. Everybody was scared to own Amazon. It was into the teeth of selling. It looked miserable. Amazon looks fantastic. Doesn't go down. Okay. So that's one thing that I'm not crazy about. And the other thing is, obviously, there's funds out there, big guys out there with Amazon exposure that would need to be replaced, right? I mean, the stock's been a big winner. I'm sure somebody had a big position expiring in May. So those are the cons. The pros, it was sweeper activity, legit sweeper activity, big bets, obviously, aggressive, obviously. So you got to weigh the pros and cons and consider that. Okay, but like I told you, you guys know me, but most of you know me by now. Up here, you know, when everybody see, here's the thing. Last time Amazon caught that action, I had to pull teeth out of people's mouth to consider buying it. Nobody wanted it. Here, everybody's asking about it. Okay, so there's a lot of eyeballs on it. You know what I mean? A lot of people have an interest in it. So if Amazon goes higher, it's going to have to pay a lot of jabronis with it. Just keep that in mind. But it may be worth a shot if you were eyeing Amazon or for an entry up here for some reason. You know, FANG has been a crowded trade. You guys know that. What the hell? I get lost in this thing. All right. Encana, again, this was the order one of many in Encana. And I already went through that. Top May positions. You know, here, by the way, I think, did I post? Yeah, hold on. I'll show you guys what I mean quickly if you're not familiar with this. And again, if you guys are in the room, okay, or on private Twitter, whatever the case, that's what you're there for me to figure this stuff out. This is not stuff you need to figure out until you become really familiar and comfortable with the flow. This is my job to look at this stuff for you. Okay, here was the open interest changes from Thursday. Okay, remember Thursday Encana caught a lot of action. Again, June calls. See, and a lot of people don't realize this. But look, does that look clean to you? They shut down 2 May lines and they rolled into June's. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. All right, so that was the noteworthy activity. Again, all comes with a grain of salt, but names to definitely keep an eye on going into next week without a doubt. Spot in particular, I think, is a must watch because it's a fairly new name. You know, they may come in, get aggressive with it, and it would be definitely worth a shot off that. Amazon, you know, maybe we're gonna pull in Amazon early next week, and this guy shows up again, and you get even a better entry. All right. So, and just let me hit on this question too for some of the members out there. A lot of people were asking me about day trading off this action. This can be day traded, guys. This stuff can all be day traded. Okay, it's what's swing worthy or not. All right, but a lot of times these type of bets are going to cause some momentum intraday. You saw Amazon. I think it sold off later on, but there was quite the rip off it. So you're going to have momentum generated off the action. Right? Where did he come in? He came in, what was the price of it? Oops. Wow, I'm dizzy. Where is it? The first bet he hit at 1577 and then again at 1580. 15.7, yeah. So right around here, and you can see he had momentum. And then like a lot of these big guys that lost it all at the end of the day in the afternoon. So, you can day trade this stuff because as a day trader, here's the question I ask myself as a day trader. Is this order aggressive enough, right, that it can create some momentum? I'm not worrying about the bet being right. I have no interest as a day trader. I couldn't care less, right? Let Amazon go to zero for all I care. I'm looking to take advantage of this as a day trader. I'm looking to get in the middle of this, and I have an issue with just selling into the rip, or raising stops to try to take advantage of it. That's your job as a day trader off the action. Swing trader, you want legitimate activity. You want it to be crystal clear. Those are the best ones to own. If you're trading just off the flow itself, you want to make sure, if you're in the room and I'm on audio video, you want me to say that is a clean bet. And a lot of times, guys, those of you in the room know, I say, all right, this is the best order of the day, hands down. I stress that a lot of times. And I will stress when it's not. All right. So that's the action off Friday. A couple other names that actually did well, but here's one I'm keeping an eye on. I like the setup more than the action. I will say that. The CL, you could see here, dead. These things have been massacred. Trying to find a bottom here. There was some shorter term flow, a couple of small sweeps there, some August buying. Nothing really jaw dropping, but some buying. I would really like to see them come in and get aggressive here. Set up a squeeze. Some of these things are nice to trade. Some of them work, some of them don't. More than not, you'll get a decent pop out of it. There was a nice pop out of HBI, where, of course, I couldn't make money on the day trade. It didn't want to move. The following day, it started to run like a banshee. But you can see similar setup, down, dead. There was some decent action in this HBI, actually. HBI had some decent action. And, you get a bigger lift than I actually thought you would get. Okay. There were a couple other names. The Yelp setup was nice, where you get that pull or some weakness and some good looking action comes in. We had the Square action the week prior. That thing's had a nice move off the action. So I'm not a big fan of buying these up here. That's what I don't like. Up there, I'm not a big fan of it. How about this one? And this is what we're starting to see more of. This is one I had a swing. I actually swung some equity because I thought, option-wise, it may not be worth it. Shows you how much I know. But I bought stock and had a nice little hit on this. A lot of guys bought calls on this thing. IPI. Anybody have this? Really good looking action in this bad boy. DK, you had it? This was a good one. This was a good one. They came in right into this sell-off here. Literally marked the bottom. And the action there was really nice because I'll show you what happened here. Oh, come on. Twitter doesn't let me go back. But anyway, there was a put seller, okay, which told us, all right, this guy thinks there's limited downside from here. But we really wanted to see some call sweeper activity come in to confirm there's upside. And it came in right after that. Here was the put seller, September $4 puts. Look, that's the chart where they came in. And then literally that same day, like maybe 15 minutes after that, they came in buying June calls. So telling us he's looking for a move shorter term. You own the equity. I own the equity too. I sold it, but I own the equity. But yeah, she looks immediate. When I see put sellers, I buy equity. Interesting. So that was a nice one. Like I said, last week there were a couple, even though the market didn't do much, there were a couple of decent movers underneath the hood. I see somebody asking about AMD. AMD, up here now, I have no interest. Up here, I have no interest. AMD, by the way, this activity has been hot throughout this whole move. Really hot. A lot of call activity. And they caught an upgrade on Friday. I guess drifted lower with the rest of the stuff at the end of the day. Was it a stupid upgrade? I saw what, $18 target or something ridiculous, that in NVIDIA. But, you know, up here now, this is not my cup of tea. I don't care what action comes in now. I'm not touching it here. I need a breather. I need a pull. I need a lot for me to be interested now. You know, here you had, after the pop, you had a little breather at least, right? So you need something like that. But yeah, a ton of cool activity in this AMD. Seems like every single day. IQ, some people are mentioning there. Interesting one here. So this is what, the Netflix of China, they're calling it. And there was call activity that came in, small here, more on this day, and then exploded. And then you had calls rolling out. Okay, so they were buying May calls. They pushed that out to September, some to December. Okay, so they got some time behind them now. And you got a little bit of a rest here, which is nice, because you don't want to chase this right here. Okay, we saw what looked to be some put selling in this name on Friday. Okay, which is really interesting coming in after this. Okay, so keep in mind, it may be early. In other words, with the premium he took in, he's got wiggle room. So it doesn't mean this thing is just going to explode from here. But without a doubt, keep an eye on this name going into next week. Because if they get aggressive like they did down here, you may see wings. You know, you may see this thing just explode. So that's what I would be looking for on the timing aspect, is if they get aggressive on the call side. But if you like it here and you are okay with being early and you're bullish on the name, September and December is what I would target on the option side, because that's where everything got pushed out. But these IPO names, oh my God, when they catch action, some of the biggest winners come out of this. I was talking about in the room, GoPro, believe it or not, GoPro was the best post-IPO sweeper play ever. It just hung out there for like 2-3 days. They went bananas on it, and then explosion. Baba was fantastic. Even the Roku, by the way, Roku, after the IPO, caught activity, and you can see here, it lay dead. The stock traded lower even after the activity and just erupted. All right, so Roku's had some bull flow out in June, I think it is. Speaking of Roku. But yeah, these IPO names, that's why you can see IQ and Spot. I want to keep a close eye on going into next week. Yeah, the IQ, again, I'm not a big fan of chasing up here. You guys know it's not initial activity. Here was the ideal spot. Like a couple of people in the room, well, you guys know if you're in the room, MJ took a shot and owns some calls, and she rolled them out. But she had a real nice entry. So, but this is what you want to see after an explosion like that. You know, how long does this last? Hopefully the sweeper activity will give us a guide here. You know, ideal, maybe it goes dead for another couple days, and then we see sweepers start to hit, then we're good to go. And like I said, the spot, I like just because it got beat up on Friday. But yeah, look at this thing. It gets beat up constantly. You know? So I'm hoping they hit this again too while it's off some weakness. So two to keep an eye on. John's talking about CZR. As you know, John, ton of action. I know a lot of people. My boy, one of my friends, is extremely bullish on this thing. But I can tell you here, as far as the action's concerned, CZR is a tough one. And the reason why is you see a lot of flow, but a lot of it's not clean. A lot of it's tied to stock. A lot of it. All the blocks, they're tied to stock. So it's a little deceiving, but don't get me wrong. There's buying. There's been bullish activity. So if you like the name, more to you. And, the group is hot. By the way, MGM, something to keep an eye on. Maybe some fresh buying comes in there that really hasn't moved much. They're out in August right now. And the casinos in general. I mean, Wynn is still a little, well, it's off a little weakness here. But Wynn's a little extended from the initial activity down here. But you want to buy weakness. So if you see some action, you can buy Wynn for a trade. My baby is this guy right here. This is the one right here. SGMS. That's my biggest regret, guys. I sell, you name a stock, and I've sold it too quick, okay? I got the quickest trigger finger on the West. So it doesn't bother me anymore. But this is one I really, really regret for some reason. I'm in love with the action. It's an under-the-radar type of name. There's been flow in this whole entire trip. And I'm talking about gigantic orders. Gigantic. This is the one, Aaron, I was talking about, Leaps. I actually had Leaps and had a decent profit on it and sold it at the perfect time and said to myself, I'm going to buy a pullback. That's what I was planning for. And I never bought the pullback. And now she's at new highs again. But this name, always a name to keep an eye on off pulls, consolidation. There was a lot of flow, as you guys know, down here. Even that went underwater for a little bit, but they don't care. They have a lot of time behind it. Most of the bets, the big bets, come with time. And they've been printing money in this name. Another name that's a slow mover that's seen a decent amount of actions is IGT. Finally back at new highs. They bought every single pullback in this name. It's just really slow. And you know what's happened a lot of times? I could tell you a couple members, I feel bad for them because it sucks. They get the move, and then, the stock looks like it's ready to explode. This happens. Every top of the market, this thing got caught and came back down. Ultimately creating another buying opportunity, but so these are names to keep an eye on if you see any weakness or consolidation. IGT, SGMS. I mentioned the MGM, which looks totally fine to me. Totally fine. A lot of people got discouraged that this rally here fizzled off the buyback. Understandable. That had buyback news and it sold off where people thought there'd be some extension there. But I think, this still, if you're in the August cause, this still looks totally fine. And that's why you're in August. That's why you're in August. And the only thing, as far as any new buying, you really want to see some big buying. There was actually flow there. Let me get to that a second before I forget. There was actually flow in MGM on Friday. It was a bull combo. But the point I was trying to make for MGM to get me excited from this point, besides the August calls, you want to see that something similar to that buying that came in pre-earnings, that type of flow. Because MGM could catch size. MGM is active. It's an active name flow-wise. Always catches flow. Here's what they did on Friday. So you can see, same thing like, guys, you see what I mean? Same thing like all the action we've been seeing. Bullish spreads in MGM, June options. May contracts expire. They're most likely looking to replace. They sold 10,000 June 30 puts, and then they bought call spreads with the proceeds. Looks like for a 28 cents debit. Traded 20,000 times, big size. So ultimately, he's going to cash in if it makes a move to 35. So that's what he's looking for. 35 would be a nice move, the gap on MGM. All right. So keep an eye on it. Yeah, Wynn. I mean, Paul, Wynn looks totally fine to me. I mean, here's the thing, and this is what I try to stress to members, okay? When you see initial activity, what I mean by initial activity is when buying just starts up in a name. Okay, last year a lot of traders just in general got caught up in climbing the ladder. What I mean by that is Wynn would catch call buying down here. Okay, they get a pop here, they sell it. Okay, and then Wynn catches call buying up here again, and they're buying it back even though it's higher than where they sold that call initially. That's ridiculous. Okay, so you don't want to get in the habit of doing it. If you were bullish the name and felt it was going higher, you should have rolled out and left a piece. All right, so Wynn had the initial, this is where those missiles came in. You guys remember. All right, and now we see action here and there coming up here. That doesn't mean another parabolic move is coming. Okay, that the initial activity, it's moved. So now what I would stress is if you see some weakness, like here, for example, and you see some call buying come into Wynn, you like the spot, look at it as a trade. You understand? So, Aaron, the opposite of what you would look at, Aaron, what your question was earlier, longer term position kind of thing. You don't want to do that up here. That was something you wanted to do down here when they were buying the daylights out of, what was it, September's? Okay, so it's okay to play Wynn, but if you're buying here, you're looking for that snapback, and Wynn usually has that snapback, and you want to take profits into that. You don't want to ride, let's say like you're buying here, you don't want to ride up to here, and then it comes down, and then you're done on your calls again. You're looking for a trade out of this. All right. The biggest, best winners, and Paul, I'm not singling you out, but just because you asked the question, always come off initial activity, guys. Always. It's not a coincidence. Always come off initial activity. And you realize a pattern here. A lot of times it comes into the name where nobody wants to own it but them. Remember Wynn? How bad it looked? Remember how awful it looked with the whole harassment thing? Nobody wanted to touch it. But these guys were piling up millions on the call side. Those are always the best spots. Up here, not to say it can't grind and go higher, but it becomes a lot more difficult. So if let's say you're buying here, you had a decent spot, okay, and you're playing monthlies, you didn't take this, and then it comes back down, you're dead here. All that juice gets sucked out of your calls. You're not even going to be able to stomach this or have the time for it. So it becomes more difficult. It becomes more difficult. What other names? Oh yeah, Tesla. Rob wants to talk about Tesla. Tesla caught a buyer into the selling on Friday. There was actually a little put action, but late in the day, caught a sweep that caught my eye. Let's see. Now again, I don't know if it replaces a May position. Probably does. But like I said to members, if you were looking for a Tesla dip buy, you could use this as that's not it. Where is this? Wait, May. Oh yeah, that's it. That was the order at 2:30ish. Okay, right into the teeth of the selling. I forgot the T on here. 300 plus May 25th, 277 and a halves. I think it was about a $200,000 bet. So this is what it looks like on here. You can see intraday had a little bit of momentum, but not much. Nothing was doing anything late in the day. What did I say came in at? Hold on, let me get this other stuff off the screen so we can see. 230, right? 235? Oh, what am I looking at here? 235. So that's back here. Yeah, so right into this dip here. You can see grinded, chopped a little bit higher, not much. It was a dead afternoon, Friday. But yeah, so that's the bet. So if you guys were looking, for any sweeps into Tesla, not a bad sweep. We've seen a lot smaller, 200 grand. But yeah, I stress, this is a type of action, okay, that I stress to members that you use incorporated with what you're using already on your end. Okay, we've spoken about this a lot of times. I know a lot of successful traders that I work with, friends with, that incorporate flow into their particular style. And I'll give you an example. We talked about that one guy who was preaching to me about DeMark exhaustion signals and sweeper activity into it. So, for example, if Tesla had an exhaustion signal and he saw this sweep, he would trade it. Okay. If Tesla is on some Fibonacci number and you saw this sweep, you would trade it. If Tesla is just set up technically and you like it off a chart, you would trade it. Okay. But off the order itself, just trading off flow, this is not the stuff you really want to focus on. Your bread and butter is going to be the noteworthy action. The noteworthy action. The wins, the PayPals, even the Yelp, stuff that's worthy of a trade, the size, sharp looking bets, stuff like that. That's the stuff you really want to swing. We saw some action in oils. What's the ETP been doing? I sold that. I'm not in that anymore. I was like watching. She's still grinding this ETP, huh? I had September's and I was looking to hold them like PayPal. I had October's and I sold them both. Micron, honestly, I don't have much of an opinion on Micron. It's kind of old news to me here. The last Micron signal we had was the Tepper buying that came into this low. So that's my point. Like everybody's talking about Tepper here now, right? But off flow, where were we seeing signs of that? Back here and again, here's the Paul. Remember, we were just talking about that a second ago. Where did the action come in, those missiles? Right into the most disgusting part of the chart where nobody wanted it. He bought an NFL team. He did. He bought an NFL team with the Micron for crying. He's sweeping Micron calls and football teams, this guy. Oh, God. Excuse me. But yeah, you see my point, though? You see my point? Where did the best action, where did the strongest signal in Micron come when nobody wanted it? Now the whole world's talking about it. So for me now, it's just a trade, okay? You see weakness, you see some flow come into it, snapback type of thing, okay? Those aren't the strongest signals, but we need things to entertain ourselves with while we're waiting on our strongest signals. And if you use the proper risk management, you're not going to get rich, you're not going to get poor, you're going to hang in there. That's what it comes down to, guys. Every professional trader I know, we spoke about this numerous times, their P&L, the bulk of the P&L comes off their big edge, their setup, right? It doesn't come off daily activity. You know what I mean? They don't come in every single day and make the same exact money every single day. So for the strategy that we use, right, that we're flow and sentiment, like Robert was pointing out earlier, the bulk of Robert's P&L is going to come from when, sentiment and flow align. That's where the big hits come from. If you're trading just off flow, the bulk of your P&L is going to come off Micron missiles into death, PayPal missiles into death, Win missiles into death. And I can promise you one thing, it's always the hardest time to pull the trigger when these guys come with those. Always. Why? Because the stock looks like crap. and nobody is excited about it. Nobody. Facebook. What about the Facebook missile? People don't even remember that. Into the teeth of that Cambridge Analytics. Okay? Who wanted to buy? Nobody was going to buy Facebook into that. Now, I don't even hear about this Cambridge Analytic crap anymore. Right? Everybody was shutting down Facebook. You know what I mean? So it's not a coincidence when you hear me saying the word missile next to flow. It comes into where the last place that you and I are wired to be bullish. The last place. And that's why these guys are buying it there. That's why these guys are buying it there. So that's my point. They're not coming up here with missiles. Very rare. Very rare. Very rare. All right. Let me scroll down. Did I miss anybody's questions here? So yeah, Micron, I don't have much of an opinion here. You see, like, you got a pullback here the last couple of days. You see some flow you like. You're looking for a snapback trade. That's the only way I would play it. You know, other than that, my point is, or flow, you're not going to have as big of an edge as you would like. You know, because it's all news. You know, and that's when you know you have something that works. Okay, if you had a strong Micron signal here, you know, you're not going to have the same strength of a signal up here in this game. It doesn't work that way, you know, in such a short amount of time. This was a strong signal for a reason. Now everybody wants to trade this Micron. Everybody. It becomes a lot more difficult like that. Let me see. Did I miss anybody? Let me just scroll through a couple of things because I skip over people accidentally. And let's see. Is there a time period of quiet no sweeps you consider to reset the activity sequence and see? Yeah, that's a good question, Tomer. Very good question. You know, like, I think what you're asking is that, like, for example, like the win, maybe he's asking. So if, like, the initial activities here, okay, and now obviously there's going to be action here, but it's not going to have the same strength off the signal as it has here. So Tomer's asking, you know, how long is that period before it becomes a similar setup again? And that's exactly, I think you answered it in a sense. I need to see both the flow and the price go dead in a sense. Okay, and that's what usually happens. Not a specific amount of time, I would say. Like, I'll give you an example. Micron, okay? If you remember, Micron caught all that action, that whole move there, right? And then after the initial move, you heard me say the same thing about Micron back then as I am right now. You know, I really don't have much of an opinion. It's bullish. The flow's bullish. You know, it's done. Okay, then you had this. Okay, you had this here. You had this consolidation in where we weren't seeing those missiles, right? We weren't seeing the big orders. You would see some regular Micron flow, but we know what we want to see in Micron. We're waiting on missiles. Okay, so that's exactly what our outlook was. If we see those Tepper missiles come into this consolidation here, where nobody's talking about Micron, nobody wants to own it anymore, they think it's topped out, that would be our signal or an indication that this action is going to start to heat up again. And lo and behold, it came into the exact lows right there. You know, so that's a very interesting question, Tomer. There's no set time period per se, okay, but you almost want to sense it go dead. You know what I mean? You want to see it, and you got a lot of sentiment from, like, people around you. You know, oh, it's chop. Oh, it's useless. Oh, it's this. You know, it's almost like people start to ignore it, and the flow dries up in it, and then the flow sticks out like a sore thumb when it starts to build up again. All right, so, you know, Micron, we need some time for that to happen. We need some time for that to happen. As a lot of the tech names and stuff, as a lot of the tech names and stuff. So I would say this: you need flow or price to get quiet and consolidate, or even a pull, a decent amount of pullback, and then flow start up again. Those would be the signs to look for. That's a great question. Let's see. IQ we spoke about a couple of times. If you came in late, this is recorded, so you could find it there. IQ, something to watch next week. Yeah, GE does look bottomy. There's been some bullish activity. I don't know. There's better stuff out there, You got a lot of hands in this one, a lot of sellers in this one, but she does look bottomy. She does look bottomy. Disney, yes, Disney had action and popped. Now, I don't know how everybody got so bullish in one day, but I think CNBC pumped it. That's what happened. But Disney caught action right here, had a nice quick pop, and the flow has stayed bullish since. So you could keep your eyes on Disney. But a nice next day pop thanks to CNBC there. Decent sweep. I wouldn't call it a missile, but decent sweep, that initial sweep. Right. GE looks dead or bottomy, one or the other. You're right, DK. Robert saying, can we have story time on some of the biggest option bets you ever seen over the years? Robert, I could have remembered a lot of them off the top of my head if you spoke to me post this recent election. Pre this election. After this election, I've seen some of the biggest orders that I haven't seen in a long time. After the election, there were missiles flying all over the place. Missiles would be rare, Missiles would be rare. Now, look at some of the action we see. I remember, after the Trump election, Deere caught a ridiculous order. Marriott, the hotel, caught a ridiculous order. This was all post-election. You remember the rally and all. It was just insane. I never saw so many missiles come into a period in the market in my life. It was just nuts. But prior to that, you would, like I said, you could almost count on one hand. That's why Bazooka Joe, you hear that term a lot. You hear about the Amazon Leap, Bill Miller sweeps, because they were rare and they were easy to remember. Now it's like, look at PayPal just now. Look at the action in PayPal. That's insanity. Insanity. One of the biggest sweeps I saw was in Amazon. That's what was so interesting about Friday's action, the size, but we don't know how legit it is. That's the problem. But Amazon into this here, that was by far the biggest Amazon order I've ever seen. Wynn has caught some big bets. A lot of the Caterpillar catches big bets. There's been a lot of stuff out there that's caught missiles post-election. By the way, we never touched on that because it's a little old compared to some of the other stuff. If you guys remember, down here, you remember what we were talking about? With the lows of the market when things started to change? Remember we were saying what we were impressed off the flow wasn't that the flow started to turn bullish, but the names that the bullish flow were coming into. Caterpillar, Boeing, those are names that catch sweeps. They're rare, It's not like Micron or MGM. So when we started to see that, I think it was on the Friday, right? It was on a Friday. Caterpillar caught that action into the lows, and Boeing and some other names. That was a really bullish sign. And it came into, again, sentiment signals, which is a beautiful thing. But Caterpillar caught like 4 or 5 sweeps in a 2-3 day span and, had a nice rally. Boeing too. Boeing actually caught action on Friday. Let me dig that up for you. I know you guys trade Boeing. Yeah, it's a little too far gone for me now, but this guy. Now, same thing applies, right? Not to sound like a broken record, but we saw May sweepers. They caught the lows in a strong rally. He could be pushing some, out to November. So, but prior to that, let's see. Does it go back? Oh, this doesn't go back enough. But prior to that, there was some decent action in Boeing at the lows with Caterpillar. Tomer saying huge Amazon miss at the time. It was high, so it could be Friday. Same thing. No, the Amazon guy I'm talking about, Tomer, was the guy that came back here. The sweep. It was like $4 million. That was back here. I don't know which one you're referring to. Yeah, Friday comes at the highs up here, which I'm not crazy. Because again, look at the pattern I'm showing you guys. Look at what all those names look like when those missiles came in. They look the total opposite. They don't come in when everybody wants them here. Yeah, Tomer, that $4 million sweep that I'm talking about, I could probably dig it up, but it was around here somewhere. I think September. So that would be September of last year. Yeah, obviously, September of last year. So September 2017. Is that what it is? Yeah, Paul's saying 2017 September Amazon missile. So yeah, point being the question that was just asked. Yeah, right. Netflix had an order with it as well. There have been a lot of big sweepers. I don't know if maybe the sweep is becoming more popular amongst professionals. That could be, that could be one of the reasons. But post-election, there have been a ton of big bets. Where prior to that, nowhere near as much. Nowhere near as much. I remember Netflix, same thing. Netflix caught action when nobody wanted it. Those are the best. Those are the best. They're the toughest to buy, but those are the best. And you see, like CMG, remember caught action? Oh, Aaron, if you're still out there, CMG. Okay, I don't know if that's something you would buy leaps in, but that was something I didn't know what to do with. They bought leaps, and I didn't know what the hell to do with it. Let's see, where is it here? Here. Okay, so for my style, how do I play this? January 2020, the 450s, when the stock was 300, 1.8 million. So, that was on February 16th. That's when they got the new CEO. Remember when they got the new CEO? So, what was the date? February 16th. Where the hell is that, right? Oh my God. Oh my God. So that stock's 431. What are those things worth? What is that worth now? Oops. Damn it. So the stock was 300. He's up $131 on the stock. CMG had that big of a move recently? I didn't even realize that. Holy moly. But yeah, Aaron, that would be a leap play. You know what I mean? And I'm being honest with you. I didn't play it. What am I going to do with it? I don't, I didn't know what to do with it. The only way I could play it is if I bought leaps. Tepper. It's always Tepper. No, but Tepper loves to sweep. Yeah, when I say sweep, I'm not saying he's pressing the sweep button, but whether it's his group or people who maybe are leaking his stuff, sweeping. But every time you see sharp action, there's a Tepper involved. Elliott Management is the one. Elliott Management is known for sweeping stuff nuts. NRG, I think they got out of recently. Somebody else took a position in. They swept the daylights out of this thing back here. Then caught the news. Elliott got involved. Huge winner. One of the recent ones, I don't know if you guys remember. Remember this QEP I was telling you guys about? You remember this QEP, the energy name? That's an Elliott play. Elliott, I think, is out of NRG now. I think. This QEP that we were talking about, it's probably a month or so ago now. But this is an Elliott play, little energy name, and they've been selling puts and sweeping the daylights out of this thing. You know, that guy Paul Singer right now is hot, just as hot as anybody out there. The guy who runs Elliott. Anything he touches right now has been ridiculous. So yeah, you know, sometimes, not all the time, sometimes you, when we see aggressive action with some decent size behind it, a lot of times we'll find out, you know, in the coming months that, you know, who was behind all that. That's why I think PayPal, we're going to hear it. You know, we're going to hear it. Because again, it wasn't the speculative type flow. You know, otherwise you can say, oh, the acquisition was the reason why they're buying it. Maybe was a part of the thesis, but I want to know who was buying it. No, what happened, DK? This buying just started, so we're gonna have to wait for the next 13. You know what I mean? Oh, you're saying see who owns it already? Maybe they were adding. That's a good point. Could be. Could be. I didn't even realize that. But you're right. You know, who's been adding to it. But we're going to hear. We're going to hear, oh, so-and-so up their stake or new stake in PayPal. No, I'm not saying it will come down before they add more. What I'm saying is this action that we've been seeing in PayPal. Let me pull up this so you can see it all on one thing here. See all this action here? See the size? Look at the size behind this action. Look at this. 3 million, another 800, another 4.5 million. Look at this. 2 million, half million, 300, 200. Look at this. 500, 400, 7 million, 7 million, 500, 400, 700. This we're going to hear about, you know, in coming weeks, months, who this was. Yeah. In other words, when the 13F comes out, I don't think everybody realizes it. That's old news. What is it, 6 weeks? I think it's 6 weeks, right? Maybe longer. Yeah, so I know, I think it's definitely 6 weeks. It is 6 weeks? So it's 6 weeks. So you got to understand that. Like, when you hear that Tepper upped his position in Micron, okay, that's minimum 6 weeks old. Minimum. But we know off the flow that this is where it started. You know, so when we get that PayPal news of who it was that either took a position or added a big position, you know, it's going to be 6 weeks past this at the least. You understand what I'm saying? That's what I mean. And what happens is you're going to get a pop on the news likely, right? On that news, you're probably going to pop that day. The market's not in the shit house. But, you know, it's going to be old news. That's the point I'm trying to make. You know, we already know that it's somebody big. It's happening right in front of our eyes here. You know, same thing with like EA. we were saying the same thing. You know, when the buying was being done over here, we said, all right, we're going to find out who this Sharpie is that's been buying. And then it came out, it was Melvin, is the name of the group. They're a well-known outfit too, big guys. You know, so it's not really, I wouldn't say it's a buy or sell signal. I don't take it as any signal. I'm just curious. You know, I'm curious to find out who it was. That's all. You know, and again, the flow, that's the beauty of the flow, guys. I'm biased, but that's the beauty of the flow. You see it in real time. There's nothing else out there. Think about what else out there you can see in real time. Like, it's almost similar if, like, some of you guys watch blocks on the equity front. You know, if you really can determine, or not 100%, but have a good idea in determining what those blocks were positioning for, right? How valuable would that information be? I know I'd be interested. 100% I'd be interested in something like that. But we really don't on the equity side, you know? Or insider buying, right? I mean, that's important information, especially insider buying. Maybe not insider selling as much, but insider buying. You know, that's something pretty valuable to know if it was real time, if we saw it happen in front of our eyes. CRSP, I don't know that name. That trades options? Holy macaronis. The hell is this? Drug stock? Wow. What do you guys think of biotech? Maybe biotech gets hot. Yeah, look at this. We've seen some biotech action. Oh, 60 minutes they're going on? Yeah, what Maria's talking about is ASCO. You got ASCO going on. So that could be good and bad in the sense, you know. But those of you who play biotechs, I'm sure you're aware that it's like lotto tickets. Put in what you're willing to lose inside the calls, and that's it, case closed. You know? And honestly, if you take that approach, they're worth it. Okay, because you put in what you're willing to lose, that's your stop loss. But you look at some of these things explode. Unbelievable. Unbelievable move. You know what? I ring about. This is another little guy. We're starting, and listen, IWM is leading. We're starting to see some of the better action in small caps, and we're starting to see some of these little sluggers perform. TRXC, look at this bad boy go. Now they do robotics, and there was put selling, call buying. A couple guys again in the room own some stock, own some calls. But look at this move. That's a nice little move, percentage-wise, especially. They do robotics, which is a hot group. TRXC. Yeah, so we've had call buying, we've had put selling, you know, and a little guy like this. Let's see. This is, yeah, look, this is repeat put selling. This is when the stock was 240. It's up from there. You know, they're selling puts in this name. This is another repeat put seller when the stock was $2. Oh, I don't have the other screenshot there, but you could see the flow. This is my personal Twitter I was posting on. The flow really starting to heat up in a little guy like this. So something to take note if you guys like playing, and again, the small caps, not all you play, but if you play the common or stuff like that, you know, we had IPI, which really nice move, TRXC. So these little guys, yeah, you could get some big moves when they get hot. Yeah, TRXC is in that intuitive surgical group, I think, you know, considered in that group. It's a $3 number. So obviously nowhere near the size or whatever. But yeah, and that's what's good right now. I think as a whole, I think this market, all the flow is worth paying attention to now. Even some of the stuff you would ignore, some of the smaller names, unusual names, um, they're worth keeping an eye on because we're seeing them catch real action and they're performing. They're dancing, as I like to say. When you see them dancing, they're worth keeping an eye on. All right, guys, I'll let you go. Again, if you just came in late, this is an on recording, so you could go back, review any of this stuff here. All right. Especially, I went over some of the things. If you're looking to join the free trial for 3 days, or you're a member, how to navigate the room and what to look for, private Twitter. If you have any questions, you could go to wallstreetjesus.com. All right, and here's where you could sign up. Strategy section. That basically any terminology or any stuff like that you're unfamiliar with, quick blogs get you up to date with that stuff. All right, so that's in the strategy tab on the top. And if you're interested in just private Twitter, go to the product section and last tab there, private Twitter, and you can sign up for private Twitter, $59.99 a month, and access to just private Twitter. All right, guys. Thanks for coming around. Again, enjoy the weekend. Good luck next week, and I'll see you guys around. Be good, everybody.